we're just in this moment where like a non-technical person can just do so much more with so much less.
Right.
And we're like, this is the moment to really enable our creators. You hear the line a lot of like, building is now commodity and like the tech is now commodity. And it's like, the scarce thing is actually the community and the trust and like the cult, right? That the creators have. And so it's like, enable them to do more.
And welcome back to Long Run Labs. We have Megan Lightcap, partner at Slow Ventures, joining on the podcast today. We're going to talk about creators, the creator economy, venture, and investing in the outdoor space, and so much more. Megan, thanks so much for taking some time to chat.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to do this.
Of course. I've listened to you on a few podcasts, and I was nodding along the whole time and really entertained by everything that you said on those shows. So full circle that we're having this conversation today. So appreciate the time here.
Totally. I'm excited to dive in.
The first question is always tough. And the question is, who is Megan?
Oh, in what context? I feel like people are dynamic.
Yes.
And it's so funny, actually, just as an aside before we dive in there, I was reflecting on this because I was answering a question for a journalist yesterday. And they asked the question, what's one thing that like creators miss or whatever. And then part of my answer was just like, they can try so many different things because when it's denominated in the person, like people are so rich and complex and have so many different facets to them, not just the niche that they talk most about. I mean, for you, obviously, you're more than just running, right? And a podcast host. And so, I'm laughing because I literally just was reflecting on this very meta question of who is Megan. I'm a multidimensional person. I mean, just to actually answer it. So I am at Slow Ventures. I day to day run the creator fund over there. Currently in San Francisco. Originally an East Coaster though. So I grew up in New York, lived there for many, many years, and then made the switch over to the West Coast, which has been super fun. And I spend a lot of my time meeting really niche creators, thinking about, what's happening in consumer trends and consumer behavior, and kind of the internet and media landscape more broadly.
You've published a lot of really interesting stuff recently and over the years, and we're gonna dive into kind of your thesis or summary of creator landscape going from 2025 to 2026. But you guys shared, what was it, a year and a half ago, launching the Creator Fund, which was the third fund out of Slow Ventures, second or third?
It's the third product. So, I mean, Slow Ventures has been around for over a decade now, and it's best known for kind of its core seed product, where we invest at the seed stages, kind of early stages of company formation. So that was like sort of our first investment product. We're actually on our sixth fund cycle for that, and then we have separately what we call an opportunity fund, which by and large, like one way to think about it is just we invest in the later rounds of our seed companies, and I think we're on our third fund there. And then the creator fund is the third product, which is investing in creator entrepreneurs, and we're on fund one of that. So it's a little confusing, different products and different fund cycles and whatnot.
So the people listening to this will have a wide range of knowledge around venture and angel investing and investing more broadly. I've talked a little bit about angel investing on the show, but less so about venture and VC. And some people are operators and fundraising themselves who are listening to this. So the range is wide. But for those who may not be familiar, can you kind of walk through, like, why does a fund like yours exist, and what do you aim to do in working with these companies?
Yeah, I mean, the simplest way to think about it is, what we do day to day is we basically match early stage capital with early stage founders, right? And when we say early stage, that could be, and kind of putting aside the creator element, which we'll get into, but that could be a founder and a pitch deck, right? Like it's not necessarily, you don't necessarily have to have a product or an idea already in market and working. We take really early bets where Other investors, might not, right? Because it's too early. There's no data. There's no traction. So we're probably like at the riskiest stage of investing, if you will. But really, it's meant to like see different ideas, right, in the marketplace and different founders who have some hypothesis about the way the world is going to work, and we give them capital to go flip over that card, and usually to the tune of like $1 to $3 million.
And so the bet is that by going earlier, it's not 20 to 50x returns, it's larger.
35. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, and as a result, right, like the prices are cheap. And it's so funny too, because it's happening in AI now. Like seed rounds are getting done at $100 million valuation or 200, it's eye-watering. And traditionally seed, right, because you're taking so much risk in the early stage, you get compensated on the price. And so we'll do deals, it could be sub $10 million valuations on some of these things. And so you're getting in really, really early.
Where did the idea of the creator fund come from?
There's a short version, there's a long version. I mean, I think the long version, if you probably honestly dates back to Sam Lessin, who's a GP at Slow. His first company he tried to start in college, called lifecapital.com, of like, people deserve equity. Debt is not a perfect instrument for people to grow and pursue their ideas. That's like a long, winding intellectual road and story. I think the more interesting answer is, call it like 5 or 6 years ago, you had the rise of Mr. Beast and Kim Kardashian and Emma Chamberlain, who really were like personal brands, right? Like, and then even before that, right, you obviously had like Martha Stewart and Oprah and Michael Jordan, but these were the first like digitally native, internet native um, brands, right, that were spinning up, and obviously a handful of them turned that notability, fame, distribution into companies. And so we sort of like looked at what was happening, obviously in the 0.1% of creators, and we're like, like, our job is to really think in like decades and kind of 10-year time horizons. And we're like, this is certainly going to happen in the really long tail, right, of like niche interest groups and creators. And so we made the bet of, okay, this is sort of an interesting manifestation of investing in people, but also investing in like what is just happening, right? Kind of enabled by the internet, where individuals are sort of becoming brands themselves and doing more than just amassing audience and distribution and kind of building media, but like really building empires around themselves. And so we asked ourselves the question of, is this just a new type of founder, right? Like, if our, going back to what I described venture as, is like, if our job again is to match early stage capital with early stage founders, like these creators are sort of just another flavor of founder. And like, why shouldn't we figure out how to fund them as well? Right. Like, there's no reason they need to be excluded from this. And so, but like, there are real differences from, two kids out of MIT with an idea who nobody knows. And so
Right.
we had to figure out, what is similar and different to creator investing relative to seed investing. And so we spent some time kind of experimenting on it and iterating the product, and ended up launching a dedicated fund around it, as you mentioned, in February of last year.
In the notes, in the structure of the notes and the thesis of creators and creator fund in 2025 into 2026, point one was people matter, brands don't. We're firmly in the era of the individual. Building on what you've just been saying, can you share a little bit more as to why that was point number one, and why you think that that's the evolution that we're in, or that's the moment that we're in this moment?
Yeah, I mean, this is just like, I think the world has been pointing in this direction for a while, right? Like, I think like COVID was one of these like big moments where I think people were sort of eyes wide open as to like, who can I trust, right? Like, you're getting like
Right.
crazy information from different institutions that are then going back and restating and switching narratives and whatnot. And then people really started, because of the internet, right? Like, individuals just have unprecedented reach and influence, unlike they had, that they didn't have in the decades prior. And so, I think we're sort of in this moment in time where even if brands do exist, right? Like the people and the individuals at the helm are so important, right? I was thinking about this actually the other day because of Elon Musk. I don't know if you've been following obviously his story and him combining all these
Yeah.
different companies and SpaceX and XAI and Tesla and blah blah blah. And it's like he is the thing you're making a bet on, right? Like
Right.
put aside all, like he is the thing
Yeah.
you
The
are
political piece. Yeah. He's a smart person.
totally. I mean, is truly the cult of Elon. And like, you can say the same thing about OpenAI and Sam Altman and kind of run down the list. There's no real category that hasn't been significantly influenced by individuals, right? Politics, media, technology, consumer. I mean, comedy. Like there's every single category. Health, right? Like running has been, you
Well,
know,
it's trust, right?
trust,
It's not a faceless brand anymore.
totally. And and it's people I think identify with like the human condition and the human story,
Right.
right? More than they do a faceless brand.
Totally. The piece that comes next is own the niche, not the category. So you're very focused on a guy who owns a company that produces. I'm thinking of Kevin, Plant Daddy,
Mhm.
right? Like products for gardeners. That's such a niche, but he's been able to just dominate in that niche. Why is that extreme focus such a focus?
Yeah, it's a focus for us because I think it's a lot is made of the phrase like riches and niches or whatever, and
Yep.
but I think it's true, and I think it's truer today, right? Because the internet allows people to organize so frictionlessly
Right.
into what they care about, and like they're able to find their tribe in 2 seconds, and so you know, what was small, if you in your hometown were obsessed with gardening, maybe there was like 15 other people in your town who could like organize down at the local Legion and get together and talk about gardening. But now you can go into Reddit or community forums or follow up Kevin and get in the comments and like there's millions of people who
Right.
are also interested in this thing. And so you're just more easily able to find your people. And so, we saw this like community organization happening around these like really niche things. And it turns out like they're not that small. The world is a really, really big place. And so we got super excited about the idea. And by the way, like I think the bar for organizing around a thing online is there's just going to be like enduring
There's no
loyalty
friction
there.
at all. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so, we got really excited about people who really own these verticals and categories online, or in general, right? And think that there's just going to be a lot of cult leaders that emerge when you kind of put your stake in the ground and say, I am the king or queen of, you know, actually a very funny one is like glucose goddess, where we're like, what are you the god or goddess of? And she's like blood sugar regulation, and you're like, fuck, like I don't
Yeah.
know if I'm allowed to person this, but
Yeah.
like
Go for it.
she's built like a really interesting community around what she's doing, a very simple concept.
Yeah. And then it's the thing of like people are owning their lane. Like there's somebody I follow. She's a dietitian. I think her name is Danielle, and she's like the gut health
Hmm.
dietitian, and she talks about poop constantly. And but like that's her lane, and
That's her lane.
you come to her Instagram to like laugh at poop jokes and learn about GI health.
Totally.
And she has, I don't know, 100,000 followers, and she's like the person for it. I'm curious your assessment of the running industry and the running space and the way that creators operate in that space. And it's less of creators creating a thing and more of like the vehicle that they're using is their platform for marketing partnerships and promoting other brands. There are some people who are certainly building their own thing, but
Mhm.
the creator delineation or the creator designation is slightly different in that they're not like building products for
Sure.
the most part,
Sure.
but the product is the community that
Totally.
they built.
Yeah, I mean, they also have the benefit of like being able to host run clubs and meetups and like do a thing that people really care about, right? Like
Right.
in person together. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think like it's one of these things. I kind of liken it to like beauty, right? Where like or kind of like any category where like you don't really have to have any like like anyone can start
Right.
running, right? Or in like anyone can start getting into makeup. And you don't have to have but there's obviously like varying levels of sophistication of like, okay, Olympic runners all the way down to like
Right.
couch potato to 5K runners. Whereas you have people that are like beauty for beginners, right? And like this is how to shop the aisles of Sephora to, you know, Hailey Bieber's makeup artist, right? And so, and I think people are started. I think you like sort of organize by who you kind of vibe with personality wise, or even like region wise. But yeah, it's been an amazing influencer marketing funnel, right, for brands and channel for brands. I think because there also is this like in person run club element to it too, where it's just like the stickiness is so high.
Yeah. Yeah, the piece that's interesting is that coming out of the pandemic, everyone's craving the in-person connection. And so the people who can create community both digitally and in person,
Totally.
those people can win. And so there are so many examples of shoe reviewers or podcast hosts or whatever who can fill a room of 500 people. Like I think of the Emily Abates, I think of the people like that who anywhere they go, it's sold out. Like Laura Green, she's a comedian with I don't know 250,000 followers on Instagram, and she does like a comedy show or a trivia night or whatever at these major marathons, and 250 people show up. Or Allie Feller selling out like the New Balance facility,
Yeah,
and 500 people show up, and it's just like these people will do anything that the host asks them to do.
totally.
And they built this like, and that's why I think the podcast medium is so strong, because it is a one-way relationship, this parasocial relationship, but you feel like you know the person super well. And
Totally.
like I've had the privilege of meeting a handful of people who listen to the show, and like they know my like family background
100.
and friends and all these things, and I'm like, remind me your name, and it's like
And
it's
you get
bizarre.
and like as the consumer, I mean, I am 100% guilty of this. Like you get really invested in their stories.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess going back to where we started this conversation, like this is why the creator founder is just in such an advantageous position from a company, but like they just have so many more shots on goal because
Yeah.
it's like a friend, like if a friend came to you, if your very dear friend came to you and they were like, I'm trying this new thing, like I don't know if it's going to work, and it like totally flops, you're going to be like, it's okay, Jonathan, like try again, like, and I'll buy the next
Right.
thing. Right. And it's
Right.
like, and so you have more permission to fail, right? Try and fail. And you have greater surface area to try, meaning like,
Yeah.
I use the example, um, of like, take like a Pilates instructor, right? Or someone in running where, yes, they can talk about running and, um, you know, Pilates or fitness or general health, but they can also talk about their family and
Right.
people probably care. Right. Or like,
Right. Like the Peloton instructor who's talking through like their tough morning.
and they're like, yeah, being like, drop your skincare routine, right? And it's like, wait a minute, I thought I was talking to you about Peloton, right? And
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, like what nail polish color are you wearing? Like
Right.
it's just this really interesting, element with these creator founders of like, you're like, wow, this is actually how you start to build an empire.
So there are a lot of founders that listen to this show, or a lot of marketers who are in decision making capacity within their business. I love when builders build in public. Can you talk about the importance of that in 2026?
Yeah. Um, it seems to be everywhere. And I think like people have like totally woken up to the fact that, I mean, there's this whole, I don't know how closely you follow like tech Twitter or whatever, but
Pretty
there's this
close.
whole narrative online of like, go direct, right? Of like,
Right.
don't wait for the Wall Street Journal or, some publications
Make your
just
own PR. Yeah.
totally, right? And I think that really was like the version one of building in public, where it's like, and I also think part of it too is people get really invested in again in the story and the success of what you're doing. And you can kind of create this like early loyalty before you have anything to really hang your hat on.
Right.
And it shows the ups and the downs. And, there's a creator, he's actually kind of in the running space in New York. And he does a lot of like YouTube videos and behind the scenes vlogging of building his company and whatever. And he's like, there is a direct correlation between when I drop a YouTube video talking about like the struggles of my warehouse or whatever the topic is and sales. And, even if I'm not debuting a new product or whatever,
Yeah, you stay top of mind.
You're top of mind. 100%, you took the words out of my mouth. You're top of mind. People are so freaking invested. They feel like they're like a part of the company.
I love it. It's like market the marketing, right? I one of not the reason, but one of the reasons that I was so motivated to quit my job last year was because I wanted to talk about the things that I was doing behind the scenes, because I knew that like adding surface area, as you said, to exposure and like creating more opportunities to engage, like that would just lead to more opportunities. And so like I've been writing on Substack and I publish 2 or 3 a week, and it's just like a demonstration of how I think. And so I have, I don't know, 450 subscribers in there, and like 100 of them are decision makers at brands that like
I'm a
I'd like
proud
to work with.
subscriber.
I appreciate it. So I'll ask the question, like, do you feel like it's an insight into how I think, how I leverage marketing skills and whatnot?
Yes. The other thing I'll say, which is like arguably more important, is seeing your name in my inbox a couple times a week always keeps you top of mind. And like even for my newsletter, like you could write about whatever, right? Like coming
Right.
up with consistent content. Like you're never going to be breaking news or like the most but it's like as
Right.
as long as you remain top of mind for the right people, like that is just if not more
It's
valuable.
like business development, right? So like half the
Yeah,
point of having a business development meeting is not to close the deal right then. It's so that when you're ready to make a decision, you've already done your homework on the entity.
I think about this a lot with respect to building a fund. And like I actually struggle with it of, part of me feels like I should be doing way more around like behind the scenes building, and should I be blogging or posting on Instagram or just doing a lot more of like, to your question, like who is Megan? How is she building this? How is she approaching it? Because it's like pretty interesting content, I think, for people that care about it.
Yeah.
But it's hard and it's like it's super unnatural, right? And I think if, you totally have to work the muscle. So it is something that I've been thinking about a lot recently of like, should this be an experiment for the back half of the year or like even sooner?
To your point, like look at Erica Wenger with Park
Mhm.
Rangers
Right.
Capital, and
Totally.
she is constantly top of mind for me. Her offering is somewhat differentiated, but there are several others like in her space. But I see her on Instagram, I see her on Twitter, I see her on X, I see her in my inbox, I see her on LinkedIn, and it's like a consistent but reflective of the platform tone 2 to 4 times a day, every single
Totally.
day,
Yeah.
and
Totally.
you without fail. And as somebody who produces tons of content myself, I know I know how challenging it is to like be that consistent. But I'm like often sending her deals that are relevant to
Totally.
her fund, and I've connected her with LPs, I've connected her with brands, and deal flow is the you
The
know
number one thing.
is deal flow, yeah, the biggest
Totally.
pain point or the
Yeah.
biggest challenge. So it makes a ton of sense. It sounds like you do want to do more of that. What's the like friction there?
Well, I think it's more just finding the medium that feels both like no matter what, making content is going to be hard,
Yep.
right? And it's work in and of itself. But finding the medium that feels natural and like you can consistently do it, right? It's not like you're wincing every single
Right.
time. And then also that's like valuable, right? And like relevant to where, your people are. And so, for a while it's been, I mean, the newsletter has been unbelievably valuable, and like it'll be something we'll continue to do for forever.
Yep.
Or at least so as long as I'm in this seat. But I'm starting to think about like what other channels should we be tapping? Which will be quite frankly like a cold start problem. I mean, and I don't know that Twitter is it for creator. It's probably Instagram. So and then it's just figuring out like really just like starting, honestly.
What if it's like a weekly or monthly podcast between you and one of the other team members, and
We
you
could do
take
that.
the yeah.
Yeah, we tried that. It just felt like a lot of work. Like producing a podcast, a lot of work. But
There are ways
it's
around
a good
that.
form.
Yeah.
It's a good format.
Yeah. Well, the thing with the podcast is that it's just endless content. Like you can take a 1 hour conversation, and like I produce 2 or 3 clips from this, or Emma of Sandy Boy Productions produces 2 or 3 clips from it, and she does 3 or 4 with For the Long Run. But you could do 8 to 10, and it's just like boom, put it on Instagram, boom, put it on Instagram, boom, put it on Twitter, and there's your the Erica Wenger approach of
Totally.
always on, always with good content.
Yeah.
And if there's something topical, you just have a conversation and record it instead of having it offline.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's right. I think that's totally right.
Let's move to number 3, build worlds, not products. Products themselves are meaningless without story and trust. We've kind of already talked about the trust component, but what does the build worlds piece mean to you?
Yeah. I think I'm really fascinated by the people who do it well. Right. And like, I think the examples that I can't remember if I mentioned it or just put pictures or something in the deck, but like Brian Johnson has put a master class on in building world, or like Ballerina Farm, if you know her. Where like you give your audience the way I can describe it is like you just give your audience a ton of different touch points that feel very different, and like that are sort of like their own avenues to explore, right? So it's like if you take Brian Johnson for example, you could go watch his YouTube video, you could show up at his at a Don't Die dinner, you could go to one of his raves, you could go to one of his conferences, you could go watch his mushroom trip live stream if you want, you could go buy his product, right?
You
You
could
could go
follow his
down
bizarre tweets at 9 p.m. on.
totally, you could go deep dive his girlfriend, right? Like there's just so many places to sink your fangs into, right? And you're just like, this is good. Like, it's freaking weird, but like, there's a lot there to unpack. And so
Yeah.
I think giving people sort of like layers to unravel and like threads to pull and different doors to open is like sort of all this world. Like, and take Ballerina Farm of like, okay, on her surface, you're like, is this just another like trad wife and whatever? And then you're like, well, wait a minute. She has some really interesting products. She actually has a store. There's like an interesting story behind her husband, and like what she was a ballerina. Like that's pretty, like there's just like a lot to dig into.
Yeah.
And so that's like sort of the way I can describe it. And I think when done well, it's so fun. And like maybe I put that in there because like I love it, and like I have the best time kind of peeking behind doors of creators who do this super well. And so I think it's like it's very important, and I think it's sort of an antidote to like the flood the zone culture of just like clipping and virality and clickbait,
Yeah.
where it's like it's more contextually rich than that, if that makes sense.
To me, it's like let your freak flag fly and fly it high, and the people who want to follow you will find you, and then they'll be obsessed with you.
Totally. And give them more than just, just give them doors to open.
Yeah. This one is perhaps my favorite. AI calls the undifferentiated. AI accelerates defensible creators and washes away the rest. What did you mean? Okay, this was in December, I believe.
Mhm.
Could you even have imagined what today would look like?
It's like, it's nuts. I mean, I think what I meant by that is, and it's funny. I wish this is a total quiz because I have not looked at that piece of work since I hit publish. Um, but I think, the algorithms are getting so good where basically the cost of posting something is zero, because if it doesn't hit or like doesn't find its niche, no one will see it. But like if it is serving some value, right, or like it finds its way to its people. And so I think it's like, if you can't really break through, it's probably for a reason. You know what I mean? And it's hard to believe that we're in this world where, like, if you're truly talented and really have something special to tell the world, that you can't find your way to an audience. Is sort of what I
Yeah.
meant by that.
You passed the quiz because you wrote almost exactly that. The algorithm is masterful at serving content to the right people. If your content doesn't find its following, you probably don't have an angle, message, or niche that people want or care about,
Okay,
is
that's
what
how
you
you
wrote.
know this deck wasn't AI. Because if AI had written that, there's zero chance I would have remembered that.
Well, you wrote AI makes creation easier, but community retention harder. And the flood
Yes.
of AI generated content will make authentic human connection more valuable, by contrast, not less. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's so easy to spot AI generated content these days. And I was just having a conversation with someone about it, um, because it's everywhere. And like the sentence structures are,
Hmm.
red flags that you can see. I use AI constantly, and it helps with infrastructure. It helps with, like, I'm doing brand campaigns and I'm doing market research projects, and it's just like synthesizing tons of information for me all the time and distilling it into like a so what and like a pretty chart kind of a thing. Um, but on the like posting and like those the thoughts and the ideas and concepts still have to be like human produced.
Totally.
How are your creators using and leveraging AI in a
Yeah.
positive way?
I mean, this has been the biggest, back in December 25 when I wrote this deck. If you had told me, like, we would have done a ton with creators in 2026 in AI, I would have been like, I don't really know what, but like maybe. Literally, like a month ago, we hosted 30 creators to San Francisco and basically put on a boot camp and hackathon. We flew in some like technical TAs and had like literally people there from like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. just hacking. And like we taught them how to use like Claude code in the terminal, how to actually like put this stuff into production, how to actually ship product. And it was amazing. And it was inspired by one of our creators, Fisherman Kyle. He's amazing. He emailed us one day, probably like 2 months ago. And he was like, guys, great news. I just was able to fire my whatever, someone on his team, because he's like, I didn't need them anymore. Because I built an agent or an app or whatever that could like do their job, or maybe it was a part-time person or like a fractional whatever. But he was like, this just saved me so much money. And we're like, and he had been working with this like TA that we had, or person that was like helping him, set up some stuff. And we were like, oh my God, we should be doing this for all of our creators plus more. And so I think we're just in this moment where like a non-technical person can just do so much more with so much less.
Right.
And we're like, this is the moment to really enable our creators.
Yeah.
And, you know, you hear the line a lot of like, building is now a commodity and like the tech is now a commodity. And it's like, you still have to like, it's still pretty technical. Like it's not perfect. But it's only going to get better. And so it's like, the scarce thing is actually the community and the trust and like the cult, right? That the
Right.
creators have. And so it's like enable them to do more. So we were really excited about it. It was such a fun 2 days. We're going to do another version in New York, I think this summer. Because obviously, San Francisco, we did it super last minute and getting people out to SF was a little hard. But it was sort of this interesting insight too, where, you want people who are game to spend 12 hours a day locked in a classroom, like
And learning. Yeah.
learning. You're getting like pizza and a beer and like it's not fancy, right? And you're gonna walk away with like knowing how to use these tools and actual like products.
This moment is fascinating. I have a friend who last month made $200,000 from creating AI environments for boring businesses is the way to describe them, but also like med spas and gyms and things like that.
Totally.
And like he's a sports scientist and data guy, and so like the using the tool was not a stretch for him. But like he's going into these businesses and saving them time and money by just like creating these environments that then make their job easier. And so
And
it's
when
just
you
like,
say environments, like what are they?
so it replaces manual invoicing, it replaces manual
Yeah.
scheduling, it
Yeah.
replaces
Right.
like all the customer service stuff that's so slow. And his point was like, okay, all these companies have databases that of clients that haven't visited, but like, what are you doing with them? Nothing. It's just like a dilapidated mailing list. So there's win back opportunities based on, you know, last session and what the session was for like a med spa. Or like, let's say you're an electrician. If I reach out to 3 electricians, I'm going to go with the one that responds first. So like AI
Mhm.
should win that deal for
Totally.
you. So
Totally.
yeah, it's a fascinating opportunity, and just like the malleability of the tools and people, it's just limited by our own creativity of like what, like I have a flight on Saturday and I'm excited to like, I was listening to a podcast and it was like, basically at this point, like if you have an idea for a product or a tool, you can just make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so like I'm gonna sit on my flight to DC on Saturday, and so like I've been working with Eternal and I've been getting guidance and I've been chatting with some dietitians, and I'm convinced I'm not eating enough. And so I want to make like a really simple tool where I can connect my activity volume and what I'm eating on a daily basis and just like have a thumbs up or thumbs down
Totally.
type metric. And there are plenty of tools out there that exist that can do this, but like I want it in a very specific way.
Yeah.
And I've built enough things in Claude so far that I know that like I can do this and it will give me exactly what I want. And it doesn't need to be
100%.
pretty. It just needs to work.
So Sam on our team, he was showing us, he built something similar. I don't know that it was for the same reason, but
Yeah.
he basically just all he does is take a picture of his meal. He
Right.
doesn't even text it to anywhere. It just sits in his photos, and he gave his bot agent, whatever it is, access to his camera roll. And so anything that looks like a plate of food, it automatically knows to go in, pull it down, get the macros, get whatever, and it's like pretty darn good.
Well, so the previous solution is you pay $10 a month to create this,
Right.
or to subscribe to something like this. And the
Right.
model now is you pay $100 a month to Claude and you create whatever the hell
Yeah.
you want.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Um, yeah, it's pretty wild. I was like, I spent 10 minutes at the $20 a month value, and then I was like, nope, I need 100. So
Gotta upgrade. I was talking to one of the TAs, and granted, he does this for a living, right? Like he's a technical person, but he was like, I am up until he's on the East Coast, or I mean, I guess it doesn't matter where he is, but he's like, I am up until 2 or 3 AM every night doing this stuff. And he's like, I had to like talk to a therapist about it. He's like, and he's like, because the point he's like, my brain is so
it's just
broke
limitless. Yeah.
where he's like, every like 10 minutes that I'm not coding on a project, it's like, because you can get so much done in such
Right.
short increments, he's like, it's exponential, the like opportunity cost of not doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's like a little too. I was like, I'm not that deep, but like you kind of understand it. You're like,
Well, yeah,
I see how that's
totally.
going.
I totally understand it. And I'm obsessed with asking Claude, like, is there a better way to do this? And
Mhm.
then like
Yeah.
building it. So we were talking before we started recording about the podcast network that I put together. So I have
Mhm.
35 shows, 1 million impressions a month nearly, and I'm running between 3 and 7 campaigns at any given moment. And so this only works if I can report back to the brand, like, did we deliver on more than just like coupon code conversion? So like this deal that I have with Good Ranchers, we've commit to 1 million impressions over a 3-month period. So like I need to report to the brand um, back about the 7 shows that are part of that campaign. So even if like we don't have a lot of coupon code usage or post purchase survey redemptions, we can still like measure the impact from an
Mhm.
impression standpoint. So previously we've been like asking each host individually, like, how many listens did you get? How many story views did you get? How many email subscribers saw this. And I was like, with 7 hosts, like, or with 7 shows, this is like a fool's errand to try and capture all this information and then compile it. And so I just like put into Claude, like, this is what I'm doing. Is there a better way? And Claude was like, yeah, why don't I build you a Netlify link that you can share with the host and they can submit it. And I'll build you a spreadsheet that has a dashboard and like a log of, so I put in the contract with the brand. And so it had like a checklist of every deliverable that I was expected to deliver. And then it absorbs the form that the hosts are filling out. So I don't need to touch anything from a data entry standpoint. I just send them a link, makes me look smart. And then the brand has a live spreadsheet that's constantly updating based on, so it's just like the opportunity is basically just like, is there a better way? Yes. Okay. Make it.
Totally. And you're not doing anything. You're
Right.
just like,
Yeah. It's like,
do
boop, boop, boop. Yeah.
No, it's wild.
It's great. I'll often like get off of a brand meeting that I use Gemini to record all the notes and whatnot. And I'll often just like dump the transcript into Claude and be like, is there a Substack article in this?
That's
And like,
interesting.
give me a framework for how I can think about this. And so I'm like often having these really interesting conversations with people that I'm like, damn, I wish that were a podcast. And while it can't turn into a podcast, I can then turn it into a Substack. And so a lot of my like brand marketing or
Yeah.
sponsorship Substacks have come from like not recorded, but recorded conversations that I was having that I was like, yeah, this is interesting and perhaps useful to share. Yeah, the content creation piece is just, yeah, and then Claude will review it and be like, oh, you missed talking about this, or like, these are some other things that I know you know about. So tell me your thoughts on this. And then all of a sudden I've written a piece on Substack that
Crazy.
is just like very opportunistic.
I love that because I
Yeah.
have all these conversations, and like interestingly, we'll get like a spark. I mean, even from this conversation, maybe I'll reflect on something that will spark a future newsletter article or
Right.
something. But I will usually just like jot it down, but either I have to like return back to it later and recall our conversation, or like,
Right.
kind of like force myself to expand upon it when I was like, I don't really remember the context of it. I should have, I'm 100% stealing that.
It's great. And so like I had a meeting with a brand yesterday and we were talking about AI for PR purposes. And it was like, I was like, I had a bunch of questions coming out of the thing. And so, yeah, it just like creates such a rich knowledge base
Yeah.
of the conversation and like where you can take it and expand on and learn more about and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The piece is like, it's so easy to just like, oh yeah, let me command tab Claude. And it's just like it's like a twitch at this point.
Yeah. And I
Um,
was talking about my associate, and he's like, it's like Minecraft for
yeah.
adults, or like video games for adults. He's like, it's just like addicting. It's fully just games.
Okay, speaking of that, number 5, short the mass market. We're in a post-attention economy. Eyeballs aren't worth crap today. What does that mean?
I think it's just like in a world where there's just the cost of content creation is zero, right? Like it's sort of like followers don't mean anything anymore,
Right.
and like you just have to find other metrics or things to kind of hang your hat on to really understand someone's engagement. Like eyeballs and just like views or followers, like they're just like super low signal now. And so like what's really interesting, you remember the world I was talking about of like if someone buys Brian Johnson's products, knows the story about his
Yep.
girlfriend, goes to the rate, like those are way more higher signal than just how many followers someone has. And I think it's sort of similar to like why we don't do this sort of like mass creator or mass, celebrity, right? Where it's like bigger isn't always better in this world. And I actually think, measuring engagement and loyalty in other ways is way more telling.
Makes sense. I'm curious your thoughts on a conversation I had with Sahil Bloom, who
Hmm.
launched a skincare for men line in December, late December. I
Wild
met up
Rose.
with him in Boston, Wild Roman, yeah, named after his son. I met up with him in Boston. We were chatting, and there was a this was fascinating. There was a tweet that was like, "Oh, look at Sahil just following the trajectory of like building an audience and then squeezing dollars out of his audience." And there was either that post or that his response got like 5 million views or something like that. And the response was like, "If I wanted to make money, like this isn't what I would be
Yeah,
doing.
yeah,
this is
yeah.
this is a passion project for me." Yet he has 1 million followers, and it's certainly like not a bad way to go about doing business. What's your assessment of like that type of statement around? Um, he was like, I would have sold courses if I wanted to like make
Totally.
a
Yeah.
lot of make a lot of money.
I mean, I tend to agree, right? Like if you think about any of our creators, they could make a lot more money sooner just doing like going all in on brand deals. And it's
Yeah,
it's it's why it's so tempting, right? And I think it's why, the agencies have they as much as they want to do these like company builds and co-builds and ventures, like their golden goose is just brand deals, right? And it's like it's a very hard thing to give up. Um, and so I think the bar for, when we talk to creators, the bar for starting something can't just be like doing it for the money or like doing it for the founder title. Like there has to be some sort
the
of
why.
what they're calling or like, reason for this product to exist that they can't stop thinking about. And they're like, I have to take this shot,
Yeah,
because there's a lot easier ways to make money.
yeah. It's the obsession. Like you can't live
Totally.
without it. For Sahil, it was. He's like, well, there were no products on the market that satisfied what I was looking for. So why
Totally.
would I not build
Especially
it? And
for
he's like,
men, right? Like,
right.
total. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fascinating to watch that. And then like the bonus distribution that he got from like the quote unquote haters.
Mhm.
He's like, I sold a shit ton more from as a
Totally.
result of these people just like making noise about me.
Totally. I mean, it's funny. It's actually one of the things we look for. It's not like a requirement, but having haters is kind of a good thing. You
Yeah,
don't
stand for
want it
something or stand for nothing. Yeah.
100%, 100%. And ironically, oftentimes these haters just elevate you more and more and more and more. And it's like, thanks, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever. As long as it's not like vicious or whatever, it's like just contributing to more people seeing it.
And sometimes it is vicious. And like, people have thick
Yeah,
skin.
that's true too. Um, where do you see this is more broad than just slow, but I'm curious your thoughts on the outdoor space. I've had a bunch of conversations with investors and angel investors and VC and a little bit on the PE side, um, because running, specifically trail running, is exploding in this
Totally.
moment,
Yeah.
and um, outside capital is seemingly interested in getting a piece of that pie. Where do you see the opportunity for venture funds to participate in running and trail and hike and the outdoor space?
I mean, there's a couple ways to think about it, right? Like, I think there's obviously directly in a brand or whatever that's launched. I think there's like ways to participate in like an ecosystem of brands. I think there's one way to think about it, which is okay, we're actually building an, sort of an ecosystem of niche outdoor sports that on its own may not be big enough
Yep.
for a financial investor, but together and there's enough whatever shared services on the back end or, cross pollination between them. And I've talked to Dylan Bowman about this a lot.
Yeah.
Love that guy. It's so funny. I'm like, now that I'm living in San Francisco, I've had so many friends go to his trail runs and they're like, he's like the guy. And I'm like, this is it's like,
He
of
is
course
like the guy. He's the
he's the guy.
guy.
Yeah. But it's like hearing it from a friend totally organically. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's great.
No, but he's amazing. And like, I think he's thinking through a very similar question of just like, what's the biggest opportunity here and like what's the right way to structure it. And like any category where there's high growth, real like community formation and customer interest and like deep tailwinds behind it, of which I think the outdoor space, you could totally make those arguments. It's like totally worth paying attention to from an investor perspective. I think it's just like what is the right structure that makes it compelling enough based upon the returns that the financial investor is like underwriting to, right? Like a venture investor is going to be very different from private equity investor.
Does it have to be tech or shoes or apparel?
Oh, I mean, like, could it be media? Is that what you're asking?
No, meaning like, are those the opportunities that like potentially have the biggest scale?
I mean, I think those are a subset for sure. I mean, one of the things that I've observed, and I think you could probably project this for some of these like really niche outdoor sports, is like there's this very common trend in consumer. And like we've seen it with Solomon, right? Where like the fringy brands that are like super well known and like kind of stalwarts for the people in those categories end up making it to the mainstream. So we've seen it with like Carhartt, and now Solomon is the cool thing. And then it's going to be like some of these like really cool cycling, like Rafa right now. I mean, they're a little past their prime, but like it was the same thing. And so I think like there's totally an opportunity for that to happen too, which is like, one of these brands to start on the fringe, right, ends up making its way to the mainstream and becoming like the next cool brand.
I had a conversation with Erin Cooper of Solomon. She's I'm going to butcher the title, but something to the effect of like performance and sports style, which is basically run and whatnot. And she was like, there are people walking through New York wearing our trail shoes who will never touch a trail,
Totally.
but they're signaling that they're a part of something, and Gorpcore is a thing, and like this vibe that an aesthetic that they're giving, and there are way more of those people. So Aloe launched this trail shoe, and the video that they used to promote it was like a woman or a bunch of models running around Paris on the road, and the feedback was like, was this, are the trails in the room with us? uh,
Sometimes the internet is so funny.
yeah, but it's like, again, it's like this signal that it's like
Yeah,
not virtue signaling, but the like people want to show that they're a part of something, or that
of
this is the
course.
cool thing to do, and it's
Of
fascinating.
course. Yeah, of course. And I mean, look, this happens so often, right? Like peptides are the thing now that's happening in like the fringe weird health circles and biohacking circles. And like I just saw last week, there's some, which I'm sure will be the first of 10,000, but you know, cool, sexy consumer company selling peptides that it's going to be marketed towards the same women wearing the Aloe trail running shoes, right? And so this is just a story we've seen again and again and again in consumer. This stuff starts on the fringe and starts in weird, culty, illegible groups of people, and then, makes its way to the mainstream. And that's where the big dollars are. And then by the time it's in the mainstream, the fringe people hate it and are on to the next thing.
Well, that's exactly like the biohacker space. Like I joined Insight Tracker in 2014, and trying to convince somebody to like do a blood test for personalized nutrition purposes in 2014 was like, what the hell are you talking about? And then 2021 comes around, and now everyone's doing it. And now, like, I literally said on a podcast yesterday, I was like, I could probably tell you my testosterone level at this point, like
Yeah.
within a
Yeah.
margin of error of like 50 to 100 points, and be like 80% confident.
Yeah.
Because now I've done it 50 times, I don't feel the need to like do it as much, because I know. And it's crazy how, I guess it's like horseshoe theory. Like you just like the two sides are more similar than they're, or the two opposites are more similar
More similar. Yeah.
than the middle.
Yeah.
Or that, yeah, then they are different. And so it's just fascinating to watch these like fringe things. Like personalized nutrition used to be a fringe thing, but now like everyone can do it.
I mean, it's something that like I am keenly aware of. as an investor who has to invest over a decade-long time horizon, this was like sort of a joke, but not really, which was we were looking at this creator in the pet space. And, pet is an interesting category where it kind of trails human like 5 to 7 years. And like now there's like farmer's dog and all these
Right.
raw food companies and yada yada. I saw there was a company that like, I forget what it's called. It just launched on Twitter. Like some VCs backed it of like true real meals for dogs. And I'm like, when are we gonna find peptides for dogs? Right? Like that's about to happen. And so it's like we're probably 12 months off, maybe sooner. And so I like it's this whole like what starts on the fringe ends up becoming mainstream. I just pay attention to a lot. I think it's really interesting.
What's really firing you up in the space right now?
I mean, specifically one I was talking about this morning, I'm really curious to find, so maybe someone in your audience knows. I want to find a creator or like some voice of authority who is speaking to our generation that is now faced with the task of like aging parents, which can mean a lot of things, right? Like it doesn't mean they're like in hospice, but they
Right.
are starting to break down a little bit. And as millennials, right, you are going to be the decision makers in a lot of those situations to make decisions on behalf of your parents and understand what your options are out there. And as good children we are, right? Like we're gonna do research. We're gonna not just make a decision based on a brand, right? We're gonna like listen to people. We're gonna read Reddit forums. We're gonna ask our friends. Like, and so it feels like a wide open lane for someone to totally own. And so if anyone knows anyone doing cool stuff in that space,
I
let
do.
me know. You do.
Yeah. So I have this group called The Huddle, which is a peer networking group that we launched here in Boulder. And it's a bunch of like founders, operators that we meet monthly and talk shop and less so talk shop and more of like bring baggage and unpack it and come up with
Yeah.
better. You can hear more about it in the ad read for this show. But one of the members is building basically a platform or an app for this exact use case because he's like, I went through this with my mom, and in a period of needing to make really emotionally charged decisions, I couldn't make rational decisions. And
Totally.
now I've gone through it, and everything is basically a decision tree, which that logic is perfect for AI. And so he's building this platform, and so like in the huddle we were discussing like what are the best ways to go to market with this, what are the best ways to beta test it, and so we talked through like doing it with like religious institutions, like you go to a
Mm,
temple, you go to a church and talk to the pastor or the rabbi, because these people have an intimate relationship with the congregation, and they know the people that are going through these problems and can put this solution into their hand
mhm,
like right away, versus like in a senior living center, like they all have their path to sell. So
yeah,
anyway,
yeah,
he's come up with this idea, and it basically, it helps with the power of attorney, and there's a way to get the legal documents procured and
well,
the notary in your area and this and that. But like he did a bunch of research. He's like, nobody is doing this. There's no resource for it. My girlfriend's an oncology nurse, and she deals with death all the time. And she's like, we have a social worker in the hospital who tries to give this type of information, but like it's not a like it's more of like a support system versus here's what you must
right,
do in the next 7
right,
days. And
right.
yeah, the like in the next 5 to 10 years, like I'm 35, my parents are 63 and 68 and or 65, and they're in good health, and at some point they won't be. And that's likely to be in the next like hopefully more than 10 years, but maybe not.
It's coming,
And
right?
like
Like it's
within 10, 20 years for many of us.
100%. And then there's also this like, and there's so it's like parenting, right? Like there's
Right.
so many sub lanes within that broader category. Like, I think what your friend is probably talking about is like sort of like near end of life decisions. And
Right.
like that's a whole other lane to go
Right.
occupy, right? Like then there's when do you move them to an assisted facility? What does that
Right.
look like? Like there's just so much there.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I would love to meet your friend who's doing it.
You would
But
have
I
a
do think that
fascinating
like,
conversation with him. He's doing
yeah,
some really cool other stuff too.
cool.
I'll
I
I'll
mean, I would love to.
I'll connect you separately. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's just, I mean, there's stuff like that where it's like, yeah, it's fueled by consumer trends, right? And changes in consumer psychographics and what people care about and find information, but then also just like undeniable laws
Problems.
of,
Yeah.
yeah, totally. So anyway,
And that's
but
like a time-based problem that's like a ticking time bomb that isn't pervasive yet, but fast forward 15 years and you, me, and all of our friends will be dealing with it.
totally. And it's again like parenting and these similar spend
Right.
dynamics. It's like you're probably like your elasticity to spend, right? Like
It's not
like I
rational.
think
Yeah.
you just spend whatever you
It's like
need
pets.
to,
Yeah.
right, to give the best care to your parents.
Yep. Makes sense. Megan, this has been a blast. I'm excited to catch up next
So
week in San
fun.
Francisco.
I can't wait to
uh,
hang.
in person. Yeah. Where can we find you if we want to follow along?
Um, creatorfund.co is our creator fund website. You can find me on Twitter at Lightcap or Lightcap. I'm such a bad creator. I don't even know my handles.
It's
So
Lightcap.
there you go. There you
Yeah.
go. So that's my Twitter. LinkedIn, just first name, last name. Email is megan@slow.co. No H in Megan.
If somebody's listening and they are a creator, or as you said before, maybe a creator's smartest friend is listening to this podcast,
Yeah.
what is the persona of a creator that should get in touch with Slow?
Niche, entrepreneurial, wanting to build a business in that domain. You have a cult following, you're the god or goddess of whatever it is that you do, and are really interested in like, you know, think of yourself as much as a founder as you do a creator, and
Awesome.
are interested in business building.
Megan, this has been a blast. See you next week.
Amazing. Can't wait.